Greetings, Regional Modernism students. I hope this finds you well, and welcome to week number 5. This is Thanksgiving week, so I would like to wish each and every one of you a restful and rich Thanksgiving. I'm hoping that you're able to spend it with friends and family whom you care about and care about you, and that it'll be a time of recharging and rest and relaxation. There'll be no discussion prompt that's due this week. We're going to be focusing on Georgia O'Keeffe, just a continuation of how we're thinking about painting in relationship to our questions regarding the local and the national and the global, city and the country, the role of place in creative practice. And this week's readings will focus on Georgia O'Keeffe. So, and in particular, also some accounts of Georgia O'Keeffe, of scholars visiting Georgia O'Keeffe, and the experience of actually going to New Mexico to see her. And so there'll be no discussion prompt, but there is your paper proposal is due to me. The syllabus says Sunday, November 30th, but what I would like, is that right? Sunday, November 30th doesn't seem right. Anyway, turn it in by Monday, December 3rd. It's just 250 words, 500 words. Just give me an idea of what you want to write on and why you want to write on it, and your perspective, how you approach the subject. What I want you to do is I want to get you to be thinking about this now, and beginning to work on it, so you're not caught at the end. Even though I will give you all of week 8 to just work on your papers, and we'll be starting to ramp down the reading load and allow you to be able to focus on your paper. So your paper proposal due sometime on Monday, December 3rd, and hopefully that'll come to me. I've rescheduled my teaching trip to New York for December 3rd, and so hopefully I'll get that when I'm in New York, and I'll be feeling better. I've also attached to your email. I attached a manifesto that the Viennese architect Adolf Loos wrote, called Ornament and Crime, and it coincides with your readings with Walter Gropius and the Bauhaus, the International Style, Le Corbusier, the focus of a kind of a modern aesthetic that represents a new architectural worldview, as you could say. And Loos's manifesto is very influential, and it's really a Jeremiad on Baroque expression and ornament and any additional flourish other than architecture representing or embodying a simple, clean structural line that is without frills. And I've also, when I was in Paris a couple years ago, I took a photograph of a home that Loos designed for the surrealist theorist and poet Tristan Tzara. And so I just included an example, a snapshot. It's a bad photograph, but it's just a snapshot in Montmartre of Loos's of a building that Loos built or designed for Tristan Tzara, just to give you an idea of the visual aesthetic. I also included a couple photographs from a Le Corbusier show at the Pompidou Museum in Paris that gives you an indication of the architect as uber artist, the architect as the master artist. Corbusier's architectural designs, models are on display. I also photographed a few of his paintings. So he painted, architectural designer. He worked all over the world, helping communities, cities with the housing shortage, and that's something that is a necessity that many architects during this early modern period are dealing with and trying to figure out how to design affordable and inexpensive living places. And so Corbusier was instrumental. Courbet was instrumental in that. And the aspect that architecture, that Gropius suggests, is architecture is the outgrowth of all the arts, that it's what painting leads to. I'm beginning to go through your discussion prompt and getting your responses, and I will be doing that even more this week. Again, I want to apologize for being off the radar, and I'll be making it up to you over the next few weeks. What is so interesting is to think about the impact that Cubism had, that painting had, an innovation in painting had in architecture, in terms of it developing into an architectural aesthetic. And what Cubism meant, it's hard to overestimate just what Cubism meant for the avant-garde, for artists that were interested in creating new visual forms, art that was being more responsive to the questions and concerns of modern life. The Cubism represented the avant-garde, and so symbolically it served as a way of signaling a prophetic future, progressivism, a vision, and so many architects and sculptors adapted those insights that were wrought by the collaboration between Picasso and Braque, the first decade of the 20th century, and then picked up by other artists working in Paris. One of the things I want you to be thinking about is this: when you're reading Georgia O'Keeffe. Reading about Georgia O'Keeffe is thinking about how her work changes, not just subject matter, but style. How does how she think about herself as an artist change when she moves from New York to New Mexico? The subject matter changes, but how does her artistic sensibility change? Colors, the form, and also this. When Georgia O'Keeffe is working in New York, she's around other artists, and part of the importance is that you have that interaction, you have that community, and you have a proximity. And so when you move out of that, she goes to New Mexico, she deprives herself of that, but there's something else that happens. What begins to emerge is an aura of mystery. What is she doing there? It's very similar to the tradition of the desert monks. The desert fathers that leave the city go out into the desert to do battle with Satan, to pray, to develop a closer relationship with God. And it's not as if the desert monks, those hermetic monks, were left alone. There were people from the city going out on their pilgrimage to find them, to get a word of wisdom, to receive a blessing, to be taught by them. And so what ends up happening is that there's this tremendous aura and mystery and power around those that separate themselves and go out into the desert, to the country. And those then from the city are looking for wisdom. They will go out there. And so people did their pilgrimage. So people in the art world went on their pilgrimages to search out Georgia O'Keeffe. And in many ways, what you had is you had the art world waiting for work that O'Keeffe was making in New Mexico and bringing to New York to have on view. And so you can imagine that mystery, that aura, the expectation of this desert recluse doing God knows what she's doing there, making these paintings and then sending them to New York. And so that power, the power of having those come to you, offsets in some ways the benefit of working in a community. And think also about those places where artists set up, where artists locate. Michael Heiser's installations, his excavations, and I'll send some. I should send some as I should give you some links for Michael Heiser's environmental work, where it's sculpture, it's installation, it's architecture, and it's transforming a mountain, a crater. And also Donald Judd, a New York artist that finds this tiny little town, Marfa, in Texas, and essentially turns it into his city, his town. Installs his work, installs the work of his friends, and so the Chinati Foundation, the Judd Foundation. The Judd Foundation's in New York, but the Chinati Foundation that Judd set up, and Judd's collection, and those artists that Judd felt kinship with are represented there in this town that is almost impossible to get to. And even though I've not been there, I have several friends, a few colleagues that serve on the board of the Chinati Foundation, and to get there takes quite a bit of effort, including a several-hour drive and a long trip. I think they have to drive from El Paso to Marfa. But anyway, it adds to the mystery. It provides a unique experience. It adds the expectation. It becomes a pilgrimage, adding this other kind of religious dimension onto, overlaying it onto artistic practice. So I hope these thoughts are helpful to you. Again, I'm working on getting and responding to each and every one of your prompts. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a great Thanksgiving week, and while you rest and catch up, I will catch up. Work like a beaver to catch up, and make sure that we will be all squared. Let me know if you have any questions about what you would like to focus on in your paper topic. And again, just have a blessed Thanksgiving. There is much for us to be thankful.